Hello and welcome to the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. We're actually getting started here from the car of all things. Sorry about the glasses. I will tag myself in this video, sure. Facebook making suggestions for us and inviting Bess. And welcome to day 15. We're just getting started here. James Johnson, what's up, man? Denise is with us. Lori is with us. How is everybody? Denise is with us. I'm actually on my way to a speed networking event, so we are going to make this. They'll receive an invite to join. Wave to Joyce. Hello, hello. And there she is.
There he is.
All right, well, I'm on my way to a speed networking event, so I literally am walking out of this car in 7 minutes. So we got to rush through this one, but we appreciate everybody for joining. We're going to blow this one out. Kevin Mack is with us. How are you, sir?
Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Happy Friday to this law number 15 of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of John Maxwell, Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. I'm Bess McCarty of the MLM Millionaire Club School for Network Marketers, and Jeffrey David Gamble of My Leadership Network, certified John Maxwell trainer. So we're so glad to be with you guys here today, and we have a lot to share about some wonderful, cool aspects of leadership. Our purpose is to help people grow, to equip, empower, and educate entrepreneurs and create independent servant leaders, raise the bar in this profession, and give back. So, Jeff, let's hear what you got.
Okay, well, it's not what I have. It's actually what John Maxwell has. And like we said, basically this is about MLM, direct sales, network marketing. So it's going to be geared towards somebody actually building a business of that sort. Do realtors need this information too? Yes, if you're going to build a team. A friend of mine just called me and said, hey, I'm coaching a real estate agent that's in a company with multiple locations, but nobody's really building teams inside of that company. Could you help? And that's where all of these lessons kind of apply, is anytime you're going to build any type of team, whether that's a volunteer team, a business team, or a network marketing team. So unity of vision, diversity of skills, plus leadership is needed to actually win. And that's why I like the layout. And John always says each one of these laws stands on its own, but not only does it stand on its own, Julie's with us, welcome. Not only is it on its own, but it actually, it comes with consequences if you don't know it. And this law I particularly learned inside of a company that I was with years ago. And the company still exists today. Actually, the team that I started still exists today, although I was no longer part of that. So law number 15, the law of victory. It says, learning the law of victory. Leaders find a way for the team to win. Living the law of victory says there's a mindset that says losing is not an option, winning is mandatory. And one of my mentors, David Bird, used to go over this, and he said, winning is a habit. It's a habit that's formed from early on. He said, unfortunately, so is losing. Certain people just learn to lose in life. They don't follow through. They don't commit. They don't make it all the way. And that's unfortunate, but that's just what happens out there. What is going to change that mindset from being on the fence, as we call it inside of direct sales, being on the fence, showing up to, some of the events, but not really participating at any level? It says a leader's resolve. You finally make a decision. You draw a line in the sand and says, look, I'm going to, I think it's always funny. We say we're going to draw a line in the sand because a line in the sand goes away. Draw a line in the concrete, draw a line, across your front living room. Draw a line across the bedroom and says no more. I had a good friend that said that they were going to move up and they were going to move out of the particular place that they were in. And you know how everybody talks about writing like affirmations? They gave pens to their kids and they physically wrote on the wall the affirmations. I will no longer be here. I will no longer live here. Whatever it takes. And we're talking about those broad stroke markers across the bedroom. Some people will write it on the mirror and say, hey, look, I'm moving up. They were moving out. They said, we are going to move up or else. We're going to write this on our wall. And at first it was kind of funny because it was in the bathroom, and they said the bathroom where only they went, you know what I mean? Like the bedroom bathroom, which you're not really usually having friends, family, and whatever go in. And then eventually they got to the point where it was in the bedroom and then down the hall. And then they said when it really happened, it was actually in their living room. They're like, you know, they had sold their TV. They said, we don't need a TV to do what we're doing. You know, it's actually a distraction. It's taking away. And the kids, the whole family was in on it. And they said, we're going to win and we're going to make this next level in our company. And we're going to move out of here. They wanted a house specifically on the water. And ironically, today I'm out near Geist Reservoir in Indianapolis. So that's near the water. They wanted a house on the water, and they had been living in the suburbs and dealing with all the craziness of travel. And they said, we want to get free. We want to do this. And they found a way to win. They made a resolve. So sometimes you got to write that down. You know, some people, I've heard different stories of people actually going to their boss and handing them a set of Crayola crayons. And they said, color me gone. I'm out of here. Like, I'm leaving, like, for real. I had another friend that got to the point where he was so driven to leave his job, and some of his boss and some of the upper management had made fun of what he was doing. So he stopped. He had made so much money in his direct sales company that he stopped cashing his weekly checks. Just to basically, really, the guy who made fun of him the most was the accountant. It was a smaller company. So he stopped cashing his checks so he couldn't balance the books at the end of the month. And he knew 90 days had to go by before the checks were void. So he waited till like the 89th day to go in and start cashing those checks. And they actually, I mean, he got so mad. It was like he was in a location in Utah that the boss, he actually had one of the bosses like drive in from out of state at a Friday meeting and tell him, like, Randy, are you going to cash these checks? He's like, come on. And he's like, you're almost 90 days behind. And people were like, 90 days? I mean, most people can't skip a week. Here he is 90 days behind. He's like, man, I wanted to drill it in. He did it for almost a year and then finally had his retirement party at 32. So unity of vision, when you start talking about what you're going to do and then you physically do it. I mean, nowadays it's easier to get unity of vision simply because Eddie's with us. How's it going? It's easier to get that to happen. Why is it easier to happen? Well, now we are able to tape things and put the message out there and people can see it. It's so vibrant and so easy. Surround yourself with people who believe like you believe and think different thoughts. That's the reason we have events inside of direct sales, to get in the room. Now, here's the thing. You can be in the room just like you can be on the right track and still get run over if you're not moving. I've known people that have showed up in the room around the motivated people, around the people who are going to do it. And instead of being around the people who are going to do it, they're in the back making fun of the people who are going to do it. And they still don't get what's going on. Tabitha's with us. Hello. Hope you're having a good afternoon. If you're in Indiana, that is. So what's going to change the mindset? Number one is leaders resolve. Number two is unity of vision. Number three, diversity of skills. Diversity of skills. You're going to need more than one skill. So in direct sales, we talk about the basic skills, you know, contacting, inviting, presenting, following up, events, the ability to close, the ability to get somebody started. If you don't know those basic skills, you're going to need to know those basic skills to be able to win, because obviously, how are you going to win? How are you going to make sales? How are you going to bring people onto your team? How are you going to help them succeed if you don't even know the basics of how the game's played? I'll give you a real good example. I didn't understand the basics of soccer. Yes, I understood that the ball had to go in the goal, but I didn't understand really how to play. I didn't understand how to pass. So although I was fast, although I was athletic, although I could run into people started playing soccer, I was a mess and I was unable to be on a winning team, simply because I didn't have all the basic skills. Just because I was athletic, just because I was fast meant I could get to the ball, but I had no idea I had no idea what to do with the ball if I happened to get it, because I didn't have any of the skills to be able to pass it. I could get it away from people, but that doesn't really help. It might stall the game, but it doesn't help you win the game if you can't pass it to another person. And, again, like a three-way call, you can get to the person, you can present to the person, but if you can't pass it off to somebody else who's able to then close that deal or make that person get to where they need to go, kind of pointless. So diversity of skills. Number four, raising team members to their potential. I didn't understand this at first. I brought people in, and I was just expecting them to figure it out like I was. When I didn't understand something, when I didn't know something, I'm one of those people that would stay up all night, read 3 books. I would spend an enormous amount of time just trying to figure it out. And that worked for me. I expected other people to do it. What I didn't realize is they were counting on me to sit down and teach them. They were counting on me to get their level of skill where it needed to go. So that took a whole nother skill set I didn't have. A lot of people are like, oh, well, you just went so fast. I went fast because I was able to personally produce a lot in the very beginning. But eventually, what you realize is you can personally produce a lot, but it takes all your time. And the whole point of building a direct sales team is so you can eventually walk away and take some time off, which it takes a while to get to that point. And what I can say is whatever you're wanting out of direct sales, you're probably going to have to give up in the beginning. And that's one of the laws that we'll go over here. And we'll get to that law here probably in about a week. Lynn is with us. Welcome. So number 5, know and utilize each team member's strengths. There were certain people in the room that if they showed up to the room, there was an additional 5 to 10 people. They were influencers. They didn't know they were influencers. They were just happy people. They were positive people. They were good time. And if I could bring those people to the room, I eventually realized that there were about 5 people on my team that if I brought those 5 people, all I had to do was focus on bringing those 5. They would each bring 5 people to the event, and there'd be 25 people in the room. I remember when we got it to the point where there was a little over about 140 people in this one particular meeting on a weekly basis that were showing up to our weekly event, 100 to 140 people. And people were like, how did you do this? I was like, I didn't. All I did is I figured out how to get 5 to 10 people here, and then I taught them how to get their 5 to 10 people. I was like, pick a row, look at the seats, name the seats. They're your seats, in this room. Eventually, you want to own, a seat. Then you want to own 2 seats. Then you want to own a small row. Then you want to own a full row. Then you want to own the back section, and there were people in the room. I said, when we split up and we actually circle up, you'll notice that certain people have a quarter of this room. The only reason being is they found 5 people and taught their 5 people. That's why they have 25 to 30 people in the room. I've got a really good picture of a circle up of one of the guys that we were able to teach. And because he became a top producer, he was able to turn around and produce producers on his team. And the circle up's roughly 40, 45 people. And I said, did you realize everybody in that circle up was on your team? And he's like, yeah, I guess I didn't look at it that way. I said, but you're only looking at the 5 people you recruited to do that. I said, that was the result of teaching them well, so it's working. He's like, oh yeah, I finally get it. So know and utilize each member's strengths. And with that, before we get to the very end, which is leading others to law of victory, I'm going to take a quick break to basically turn this over to Bess and get her insights on the law of victory. I know she has something prepared for us. So Bess?
Yeah, the law of victory means that the leader always, by the way, whoever's looking, watching the replay, we'd love if you type in replay. And we may or may not have time for questions today, but if we don't, just type those in and we'll continue the discussion afterward. Love to hear a takeaway. Also, where you're from. Just want to say a quick shout out hi to Mark, Jesse, Denise, Lori, Joyce, Roxanne, Kevin, and Janidi. So glad you guys are here. So leaders always find a way. They don't accept a no. They like, I love what Jess said, they make that a habit. And I love Eric. Now this can not that you use force, but that you use creativity and find a way. I'll give an example. A friend of mine works for a roofing company and went in to buy materials under a contractor's license. Later on needed to return those materials. So he went back to the customer service desk where he bought it, and they go, oh, you have to go to that line over there to return stuff. We don't return stuff here. So he looks, he goes across the store and finds that line and finds that it's a very long line. It would be a half-hour wait. He wanted to get back to work. And so he looked around, he saw another person with a contractor's license. He thought, oh, it's hopeless. I have to accept this wait. And then all of a sudden it struck him, I bet I can do something. He went back to the customer service desk and he said, I bought my materials here. I think I should be able to return my materials here. And she said, okay. And she evidently had the ability to do it because she checked him out there and he got back to work. He said, that line is a half hour long and I have to get back to work, you know. I'm a contractor and, you know, so he didn't accept. He found a way. He used his creativity not to, you know, be unfair or force or anything like that, but to find a way. You just see how can I do that? Now I love Eric Worre's comment. Eric said one time, I never lose. I either win or I learn. So I thought, aha, that's how a leader can talk to their team. If they don't win the contest that their company has to go to the Bahamas or something like that, well, guess what, team? We didn't fail. We didn't lose. We learned from this. How can we do this better next time? Or maybe we learned, you know, how to do, maybe we beat our own past record in the past, so we won that way. So a good leader accepts, the best comes out when there is a great challenge, because then the creativity can come up. And so a leader actually grows the best that way too, and can teach his team the same thing. And I love focusing on the potential, helping the leaders to develop their potential, because guess what? That's even more important than winning. It's more important than the goal, is helping your team members to grow. That is satisfaction, that is fulfillment, and that is winning. Back to Jeff.
Okay, guys. So leading others to the law of victory. If you want to lead other people to this, there's some things that you want to be able to do. Number one is leadership is responsibility. So whose responsibility is it for your team to win? Here's what you're going to have to figure out is you're going to have to win first. It is, you are incapable of teaching other people to win if you can't win. Now, most of the direct sales companies, I won't say all of them, but most of the direct sales companies run on a month-to-month schedule, meaning you're basically running volume until the end of the month. Now, although there are some that keep levels and some that don't keep levels, some that start over, I mean, there's all kinds of different stuff there. But in the end, you have to achieve the level usually by the end of the month. Alvaro, how are you? So what I found is whose responsibility is it to know that number and track it? It's your responsibility to know that number and track it. If you're waiting for your upline, if you're waiting for your team leader to sit down and do that, you are far off base. You're not taking responsibility. The reason why your team isn't duplicating, the reason why your team isn't following you is because you haven't accepted the responsibility to do that on your own. That's something that you have to wake up and do on your own. Number two is losing is unacceptable. You know, if you've made a goal towards the end of the month, you need to figure out how to make that happen. Certain people will, you know, make the judgment, well, I can always do it next month. Putting it off, you know, I'll do it next month. That attitude will absolutely kill your group. My friend, WEEK, you know, well, I'll do it next week. And then you'll do it next week. And then your team is doing it the week after. And then all of a sudden, you know, it's this week or that week or the next week or the next week or the next week. And eventually there's so many weeks that go by that now you're a monthly person or a yearly, oh, I'll do it next year. Putting it off, passing the buck, it's somebody else's responsibility. It all kinds of goes together, but it's just people who will not decide and make a decision that they're going to win now. Passion is one of the things you're going to have. I found for every level you have to up your intensity. Every level you have to up your intensity. If you want people to win, here's one thing that you have to do. Not only do you have to up your intensity, but you have to come in stronger than they do. So certain people are going to have their excuses. And if you ever see somebody give their excuses, it's funny how they connect with them. They become passionate about them. They become louder. They become more clear. I'm so clear that I can't do this. And they give clarity behind what they can't do. I said, man, if you could just take that same energy and become clear about what you're doing, it'd be amazing how far you could get. Because, I mean, you're pretty convincing. You almost made me believe that you want to lose so bad that there's nothing that can change it. I actually said that to a good friend. You have to be a good friend to say something like that. It's like, man, you're so convinced you're going to lose. I bet nobody could talk you out of it. And he went, huh? I said, you might want to reevaluate, go to the mirror and, you know, check out what you just did. Because all of the steps that you just went through convincing me that you can't do this is exactly what you need to do to convince yourself to do it. Totally up to you. creativity is essential. Guys, I can't even tell you the number of stories. And this one particular level got us on this trip. And if you miss the level, if you miss that month, you missed the trip. And there was a good friend of mine, we won't tell his name, Joe, qualified yet. He was a guy who consistently put things off to the last minute, but he had remarkable talent. I mean, I as talented as this person inside of direct sales with his ability just to figure out how to do 24 hours. We were at the event. It was after an open house on the last day of the qualifying month. And he's like, and we were just going around, who's qualified, who's qualified. Yeah, I got everything in. I got everything in. I got all the volume. He was 17 applications short. He was 17 people short. Whether they bought the product or whether they got started, he was 17 people short. So he goes to our leadership and says, hey, I'm 17 people short. I guess the trip wasn't this, the trip wasn't that. And he goes, what do you think I should do? And my leader said, well, your mentor or your favorite person is this one particular guy. And, his name was Paul. I don't want to use his whole name because it'll identify a bunch of things in the company, and that's not what we're here for. So he said, well, let me ask you a question. What do you think Paul would do? He said, Paul would figure out a way to get it done. He goes, well, I guess you already know the answer, and just left it at that. I mean, there was no other teaching, just the expectation. If Paul would figure it out, you should go figure it out. So this guy's like, okay. He's like, how do I get in front of, like, this is a trick, right? He's like, okay, so it's Friday. The end of the cycle is Saturday night. So how am I going to do this from Friday night all the way into Saturday at midnight Pacific time? How am I going to accomplish 17 applications? Because obviously 17 applications means you got to talk to what? At least 3 times, 4 times that many people. So he's like, I got to get creative. And he sat down and he's like, you know what I need to do? He's like, I need to survey people. Like, he just thought of it on the spot. He's like, I need to survey people. I need to go to places that have 24-hour service, and I need to survey people all night and into the next day. So he went out. He created a list right there of basically everything he needed. He got his team together, the ones who basically were like, yeah, I'll help you, figure out and accomplish this. And he did a mastermind team call at 11 o'clock that night and another one the next day at noon. And he went out and started running. He went to Denny's. He went to Perkins. He went to, what were the other 24-hour places that he went to? There was an In-N-Out Burger he went to out in Anaheim, I believe. I think it was Anaheim. It was either Anaheim or San Diego to be able to get this done. He then went to hotels, and he was asking the front desk people, hey, guys, I'm on a, it ends tomorrow, but I'm on this survey. I have to do the more surveys than anybody else. Have you ever heard of this company? No. Have you ever heard of this product? No. Do you know what they do? Okay, I just need to ask you a couple questions. And while he was doing this, he was giving the presentation. I mean, it was genius. End result, it was either 24 or 25 people he was able to bring in a 24-hour period of time. It astounded all of us because basically, I'll be real honest, we were actually making cash bets. You're not supposed to do this, but we were making cash bets whether he would figure it out or not. And this was a group of leaders, not the leader, but this was a group of leaders who were all sidelined to him. I was like, how much do you want to bet he figures this out? Because I had kind of met him when he first started, and I'm like, I'm going to count on this person.